Sometimes Barbados today, same.
Oh, all the divisions, Barbados today. That's the two young ladies.
Yes, yes, yes.
He's a swell. The other bunch, he's a sausage.
You said that.
I think it.
You know that,
Yeah.
the times you live in now. Be very careful.
Okay.
You can't be nice to people.
You can't pat nobody in the shoulder.
Never
So
do
you
that.
insult them.
So this is from my pocket. I try to do that, you see, I think I'm a back.
Yeah. Well, you can't win. You can't win. You can't win.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so happy to see that we have such a full room today. Thank you for coming. Our first presenter is the Prime Minister, Minister for Finance, Economic Development and the Youth Economy, also Minister for Justice and National Security, and he has a few announcements to make. Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Melissa. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the press. I have to make a few announcements, as the press secretary says, and I will take your questions. First of all, I want to announce that the government is creating a creative economy grant fund. A creative economy grant fund. Creative economy grant fund. You may recall when we launched the youth economy, we said the youth economy, one of its major objectives was to convert hobbies into entrepreneurship and into business. You understand the man, you remember well. Right, good. So we are expanding on that, and we're going to have for all creatives what we call a creative economy grant fund that will be administered through the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Industries. The fund is a direct investment in our young people. It's open to young adults 16 years and over, as well as groups and micro-enterprises across all creative fields: music, film, dance, theater, craft, design, fashion, and literary arts. The grants are straightforward. You can get up to $5,000 for training, for marketing, or the launching of new products. Or you can get up to $10,000 for production, equipment, and promotion, up to $10,000. Applications will close on October 30th. And they have to be submitted directly to the Ministry of Creative Industries, and the email address is stluciacreatives@gmail.com. stluciacreatives@gmail.com. So there's going to be an application form that you apply for, creatives apply for. And it's very simple. Supposing there is a group in Canaries that wants to buy uniforms for its dancers. They want uniforms, they can apply. Supposing there's a young artist who wants to do a video, he can apply. And sometimes even in sports, you can apply. So what it does, the government is going to invest directly $250,000 more into young people, help the creatives. So people who have that kind of talent will be able to get a grant from the government, $10,000 or $5,000. And anybody who meets the criteria will be able to apply for it. Both people who are involved and the people who are aspiring to be involved. But all the details will come from the Ministry of Creative Industries. Still on the economic front, at Orange Grove, over 300 new jobs are going to be created through KMT Solutions. KM2 Solutions. They are expanding in St. Lucia at Orange Grove, and they're going to be adding approximately 300 new jobs. When the expansion is complete, there are going to be 1,000 new jobs created at KM2 in the new facility at Orange Grove. That is in addition to what they employ now. Now, you may recall that in my 25 to 26 address, I said that Orange Grove would have expanded, and that has come to light. I just want to give you a little history about KMT Solutions and a little history of these operations. It was in 2004 when I was the Minister of Commerce. If you may recall, in 2004, I was the Minister of Commerce. KM2 began its first operations in St. Lucia under the name Helen IT. They operated from Union, and I want to compliment the people involved. That is Mr. Favre and his wife. They were the forerunners in that business, the first locals to get involved in that. I want to really compliment Mr. Favre and his deceased wife, Valerie Albert Favre. With the some assistance from the government, Helen IT was formed. First local to get directly involved. And then it mushroomed into KM2 in individuals. And it's been run by one of the leading BPO firms in the region. They are in Barbados and they are in St. Lucia. So the BPO business started from 2004. It was there before 2004. So I can tell you that we saw that vision a long time ago. And this is why in 2004 we started. And right now it's expanding, 300 new jobs. Hopefully by the end of this year, that should add to a few more hundred. So we're going to be having about 1,000 more young people employed in this country doing BPO work. And still in the economic front, Baron Foods, an agri-producer, they are expanding. And on Friday, there was the sword turning ceremony where there's a massive investment of approximately $20 million. They'll be expanding into new products. And what's even more important is that they're going to be creating linkages with agriculture and tourism. On the factory side, there are going to be linkages, so people can actually see how we get these condiments made. And this is very innovative, and I want to compliment Baron Foods showing the confidence in the solution economy, the confidence in the future of this country. Still in the news on the economic front, the Harbour Club, on Thursday, they announced a major expansion in the tourism industry, a major expansion going into condominiums, into very high quality condominiums on the site next to where the Harbour Club is. As you may recall again, the Harbour Club's investment began sometime between the year 2011 and 2016, and it opened, I think, in the year 2016 or 17. But that investment began between the time 2000 and 2016. And right now it's expanding, more jobs for St. Lucians. Also, there was another major announcement by the owners of Adia that is going to be a major tourism and agricultural investment on Mackey Estate. A major, and I think members of the press were briefed on that. Again, more jobs, more investment, more confidence in the solution economy. So you will see that both in services, in manufacturing, and in tourism, the economy is expanding. In services, the BPO, in manufacturing, Baron Foods, and in tourism, Harbour Club and Mackey Estates. And still on news on the creatives and young people, you may know that Carrie Festa opened in Barbados this weekend, and the government of St. Lucia, apart from having a cultural delegation of many of our creatives, including people like Tennyson John, Alpha Allen, Richard Payne, Augustine Jam Duplessis, the folk and the Silver Shadow dancers, the PI dancers, the Helen folk dancers, McDowell Dixon with a new show, with a show called Kesnoa, which was staged in St. Lucia sometime last year, and visual artists Ken Lawrence, filmmakers Mathieu Emmanuel and Dale Elliott. They are representing St. Lucia at Carifesta. But the addition to that is that we've sent 50 young people. The government has sponsored 50 young people to accompany them. Because what Mia Morty, the Prime Minister of Barbados, she asked me, she said she wanted to have young people to get together, because what we're missing is the regional approach, the regional approach. And 50 young people will join their friends to share ideas and to get involved in the Carifesta festivities. So we have 50 young people chosen from the schools in the island. So they are up in Carifesta. Still, St. Lucia's name on the international scene. We are right now at Expo 2025 in Osaka, Japan. St. Lucia has our theme is designing future society for our lives. That is the theme of the expo, and it's one of the largest international gatherings in the world, bringing together over 150 countries and millions of visitors. St. Lucia's Pavilion has already welcomed more than 1 million visitors. And in there, we will learn all about the history, our products like our CMOS, there, our fashion, our arts, and most importantly, it celebrates our Olympic champion, Julian Alfred, the fastest woman in the world. That's happening as we speak. On August 30th, will mark St. Lucia's National Day at the Expo. And the program will include an official ceremony, a cultural parade, a fashion showcase by St. Lucian designers, and in the evening, a major concert called Rhythms of Ionola, featuring some of our most popular performers. And the Deputy Prime Minister is leading that delegation. So on August 31st, it's going to be St. Lucia Day at Osaka, Japan. August 30th will be St. Lucia's Day. So these are some of the exciting things happening in the country. Very, very, very exciting. And all the young people, they are very, very, very excited about the fact of that they are in Carifesta, and now we have these creative grants. So many good things are happening in St. Lucia, and I'm very pleased to announce these to you, and it's with great pleasure I will take your questions.
Just a clarifying question about the grant. What's the allocation for the grant?
$250,000.
Okay, cool. And you said that the deadline was...
The grant will have to be disbursed before the 31st of October. It's going to be before the 31st of October. No, it closes on the 30th of October. So they disburse in November. First come, first serve, and based on meritocracy. The better applicants will get it.
With regards to the Barron food expansion, I know it's something that they would have wanted to do for some time now, but they had some difficulty in that coming to fruition. Was there any government assistance provided there in terms of making that come to a reality?
Of course, government worked with them. The Ministry of Commerce worked with them, the Office of the Prime Minister, because that area is a special development area. And we work together. You know, what the government does is the government works, the government creates the enabling environment. And in the Barron Foods case, we had to work with them so that they could have the confidence. What's important is the confidence, because it's a major investment. And they had the confidence to expand. But the government did work with them, but it was their initiative, it was their financial input, etc. And it was their own innovative ideas, but government did work with them.
Just going to switch gears a little bit, more so to, I guess, issues brewing in the region as it relates to the conflict in Venezuela, between Venezuela and Guyana. We saw some pretty strong pronouncements from the Trinidad Prime Minister. But I just wanted to know what's St. Lucia's view on that escalating situation, considering the territories involved, they are friendly nations of St. Lucia. So what's your perspective, your overview on this?
Well, we are concerned, like every writing government. We are concerned over the escalation, but we are still working under the Treaty of Chagaramas, and the Treaty of Chagaramas makes clear procedure as to how we deal with our external affairs. Clear procedure. I think it's Articles 8 and 16. Clear procedure. And St. Lucia will be following that criteria, working with our CARICOM governments. But we're very concerned about that situation. But as we speak, right now, we are going to be monitoring the situation and waiting for the official response from CARICOM. But all governments reserve the right to say whatever they feel is in the best interest. But in St. Lucia's interest, we believe that the region must remain peaceful. We are completely against any sorts of violence, both internally or regionally. But we are going to consult with CARICOM, and according to the Treaty of Chagaramas, we're going to continue in that vein.
So have CARICOM sent any notices so far?
CARICOM is not, but I'm sure very soon CARICOM will have to respond. But you know what? I think what's keeping us back is the chairman of CARICOM is now involved in elections, and these elections are on the 3rd of September. So I guess, as most politicians, if he doesn't win these elections, he'll no longer be chairman of CARICOM. So I think he's very much involved in the election, and I understand that. So I guess CARICOM will deal with it at some point.
Okay, so while we're still on Venezuela, I know some time ago, during your state visit, there were some bilateral agreements where there were certain deliverables
Yes.
outlined. I know at some point, due to the conflict and stuff, some of those were delayed a bit. But have any of those deliverables ever come through
Yes, they are still delayed because Venezuela is under an embargo, a serious embargo, and they are still delayed. But St. Lucia has been friends with Venezuela from 1979. It is the late Sir John Compton who had an official visit to Venezuela in 1979. But we are concerned about the situation, very concerned, and St. Lucia has taken a position that the internal affairs of countries we do not get involved in, but we are very concerned at the regional impact of the conflict between Venezuela and Guyana. We're very concerned about it, but as I said, St. Lucia is working with CARICOM to see if we can bring a peaceful solution to that problem.
Good morning, Mr. Prime Minister.
You've changed your hairstyle today.
Yes, two questions. First, to clarify on the creative grant, you said the email address is stluciacreatives@gmail.com.
Yes.
Is St. Lucia spelled SAINT or ST?
STLUCIA.
Okay, thank you.
STLUCIA CREATIVES@gmail.com.
Okay, thank you. And the second question, I think it was last week or week before last, you announced that the government had received funding from the Kuwaitis to resume the work on the Grosley Highway. Could you give us some more information on that?
I guess the Minister of Infrastructure will be clear on that. But as we speak, work is going on what they call the bypass roads, to expand them. So when work starts on the highway, then there'll be less traffic will be on the main roads. That loan from the Kuwaitis, I say without any fear of contradiction, was already approved, but it was stopped by the former government. The former government stopped that loan for the expansion of the Grosley Highway. They were in office, it was their prerogative. They preferred to do a piecemeal extension between Rodney Bay and the Grosley Junction. Rodney Bay and the Grosley Junction, most importantly, from to Kilago. That was their decision. Governments have a right when they administer the country to have that was their decision. That wasn't what we thought would happen. We had got a loan approved already for expansion of the highway. When we got into government, there was a study done on that expansion. And without going into details, because we're going forward, we do not want to rehearse all these mistakes of the last government. We don't want to rehearse these. We are moving forward. The mistakes of the last government were mistakes, and they've paid for it from the electorate, and they'll surely pay for it again this time. What we thought is that it was better if we had looked at that expansion. And we looked at it, and the Minister of Infrastructure has said several times what we found on the study of that short piece of road between Rodney Bay and Kilago. So what we've decided, we went to the Q80s, and we are going to begin the highway in earnest. Why is it doing that? The shock bridge is going to be replaced. Funding has been available for the shock bridge. You may recall, when as Minister of Agriculture, we did the Bois d'Orange Bridge. And the Bois d'Orange Bridge was built to take 4-lane traffic. It was built for 4-lane traffic, and it was built as a climate-ready bill to deal with the change in the climate. You remember the criticism of the opposition. Remember the criticism when it was said that we should have put a Bailey Bridge in there for $3 million instead. A Bailey Bridge. That's what the opposition were saying we should have put in there. We mustn't forget that. They did an audit. All the experts, some of the experts who right now on social media did an audit, and they found that bridge actually we made a $300 savings. What it did not say was the bypass road that was built cost $3 million. A bypass road that cost $3 million, and we're not going to go into how that was procured.
Yeah, not
$300,000 savings on the Bois d'Orange Bridge. And further, you may also recall that the bridge near the marina, there was constant flooding in that area. If you may recall that bridge was repaired, and the flooding, knock wood, has ceased. So we've done and the shock bridge, like the Bois d'Orange Bridge, was designed by the Army Corps of Engineers. That's what it was designed by. But the opposition claimed that there was corruption, and they claimed that the bridge was overpriced. When the audit was done, it was found that there was a cost savings of over $300,000 on that bridge. The shock bridge, which again was the shock bridge, which was designed by the Army Corps of Engineers and funded, the opposition stopped it. And if you notice, you'll see the flooding that takes place at the shock bridge. I'm pleased to tell you that funding has been secured, and whilst we wait for the highway, the Minister of Infrastructure will tell you that we are replacing the shock bridge. But you have to be very careful, because we've got into the hurricane season now, and you don't want to create any unnecessary disturbance when the hurricane season. And again, supply chain issues have caused us some time in getting in procurement for that bridge. So that's what we're doing in the highway. Shock bridge, expansion from Moshi to Groseley, and whilst we're doing that, expanding the bypass road coming from VACQ to go across there. And next year, when that starts, after that, we're going to be doing the other part of the Groseley Highway.
So I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Prime Minister, just quickly on the creative grant. You mentioned that the Ministry of Creatives would be run. We know now there's a there's been an input with film development,
Yes,
especially with the young
that
people.
is also there. Oh, yeah.
Colin Weeks, especially.
Thank you for telling me that.
Yes. Would
That's
they-
also there. It says production, equipment, and promotion. Sorry. That's
But we know the CDF has some inputs. They just put out, I think, 40 young people in the business and arts. Would there be some kind of collaboration? Would they be, because you talk of training, would these other agencies have any input, in helping develop these skills and this?
Well,
these
this
artists?
grant funding will complement all what's happening now. It's not going to be instead of, going to work with what's happening now. So all the initiatives that exist now will continue, but it's going to be augmented by the creative grant, the creative economy grant funds.
So the ministry would have the directive.
The ministry working with CDF and probably, I guess, when the minister comes to give you the details, there'll probably be a board to make it work as usual. But it's going to be according to meritocracy and according to because I'm sure there'll be thousands of applicants, but it's going to be according to meritocracy and according to the best we'll get you, as is obviously normally the case.
Good morning, Mr. Prime Minister.
Good morning.
The St. Lucia Daily Post recently put out an article quoting a police source as saying that the evidence in the cases of Shaka and Daniel.
Have you checked the police source?
That's what I'm asking. Have you inquired to see if this is accurate?
I've not spoken to the Commissioner of Police on that matter, but you must recall, I've made that point several times. There is a separation of powers. There is the executive, there is the judiciary, and there is the parliament. Three separate powers. Any issues as it relates to these kind of things, the Director of Public Prosecutions is the one who's normally contacted. I've not been officially briefed on that, but as you, I've heard it. But I've not been officially briefed by the Commissioner of Police. But I guess in that instance, the Director of Public Prosecutions may get involved. But I want to make it clear, that we still have a separation of powers in this country. Anytime the political directorate gets involved in prosecution, you have chaos. Prosecution must be left to the Director of Public Prosecutions and the system that follows. It's a dangerous trend. It's a dangerous trend for politicians to get involved in the judicial process. Even though we may not agree, it's dangerous. The judicial process must be kept independent. I want to urge you and urge St. Lucians, do not be fooled by anybody who wants to make you understand that the government can interfere in the judicial process. It is bad. It's bad for democracy. It's bad for the country, even though we may not agree. But the judicial process must be allowed to function according to the Constitution and the laws of St. Lucia. The separation of powers must be clear. Anytime there is no separation of powers, you have chaos. Anytime the due process, we may not like the due process, we may think it takes too much time. Our job is to make available the resources for the judicial process to take place. That is why we are building the halls of justice. That's why we're doing that. That's why we have a swift justice program. That's why we're doing that. But we cannot and we should not interfere in the judicial process. We are leading to chaos. And I just want to tell the public of St. Lucia, that is dangerous. When politicians get involved in the judicial process, it is dangerous. That is why, to make justice more accessible, St. Lucia went into the Caribbean Court of Justice for justice to be more accessible to regular people. The opposition criticized it. I just want you to be clear. And so, Miss, I just want to tell you to be clear, I am very careful. In spite of all the useless criticism that I get, I am very careful in not interfering judicial process. It's bad. It is dangerous. What we do is we make laws. But in terms of the process of justice, we have to stay out of that. Politicians should stay out of that. Like telling people who to charge and who not to charge, we should not get involved in. Once you get involved in that, you are looking for chaos. As I said, we may not agree. A lot of things that we do agree with. But the judicial process, the separation of powers, must be kept distinct and clear to avoid chaos in a society. For you young people to have a society where you have fairness. Because, politicians, you must understand politicians, some of them. And if you hear some of the things that have been said on political platforms now, you wonder what St. Lucia we living in. You'll be surprised. Where are we? Is that St. Lucia we in? Where are we? That's what they say. Now, if these things were ever true, the chaos would be in St. Lucia. So I just want to tell you that I'm sorry if you think I didn't answer the question, but I want to tell you, I want to keep that sacred. Sacred. Not for me, but for the future. Politicians get involved in judicial processes. Particularly when you have vindictive and revengeful politicians. Particularly when you have people who want to take revenge and who are vindictive. You have to keep them, the judicial process must keep them in check. And while I'm Prime Minister, my job is to ensure that the facilities needed for the judicial process continue. But interference, I will not interfere. And anybody who believes that they can get short-term political gain by interference, I want to tell them that was how dictatorships are born. Dictatorships are born when there is not a judicial process. So without a judicial process, you have revenge, you have vindictiveness, you have threats. When there is not right now, the public feels comfortable, or the public should feel comfortable, that they have a problem. They go to the courts, and the courts will deliberate. And there are layers of appeal. The local appeal, the Court of Appeal, and now we have made the Caribbean Court of Justice accessible. And again, that is a serious historical advancement we have made in the region. No wonder the opposition uses it like that. They're the first ones to use it. Because you want to believe if these cases had to go to the Privy Council, they would have been heard next 3 or 4 years. Now they're being heard almost instantly. Because the same court that the opposition opposed vehemently, demonstrations and accusations, they are the ones who are using it now. That is the importance of having a judicial process. I'm sorry I labored on that point, but I wanted to make it clear to you that do not falter me when I stay away from the judicial process. It's for you, for me, for the future of this country. Question.
Okay. So last week on First Popular Talk Show, the question of the pricing of the fire engines was asked.
Well,
was said it was 36 million or 3.6 million. So just clarify.
It was 260,000 euros. That was the cost of one. I didn't listen to that program because I'll tell you something. I have so many things doing. I'm so excited of my work. I'm so excited of the progress in this country. I'm so excited for the future of this country. I have so many investors to meet, busting for the doors, who want to invest in St. Lucia. Every day, almost, I don't want to say scores, I can list for you. People want to come to events, they want to meet me, they want to meet the Prime Minister. I don't have time to get involved in things that, how is it possible? Come on. How is it possible for two fire appliances to cost $46 million? Just think about it. Let's make that make sense. Right? So that means when the appliance outs the fire, it builds the house right away.
On the contrary, remember the fire chief said that over 30-odd million had been spent as your Prime Minister.
You know what I want to tell you? Yes. You know what I tell you? I want to invite you to the opening of the new fire station between Answer and Canaries. That's what I want to invite you to. Progress. Progress. That's what I want to invite you to. And that's a fire station that was wanted from since. If you may recall, that fire station was being called for in this country from the 1980s. Some of you were not born yet. And I'm very pleased to tell you that fire station is being built as we speak. And it's going to be open in the next few weeks. That's what I'm interested in. I'm not interested in this. You know, $36 million. You think I can answer that? The question.
Good morning, Mr. Prime Minister.
Good morning.
So my question is just in regards to.
So by the way, it didn't cost $36 million. I'm going to make it clear. If we've been clear on that, one of them cost 360-something thousand euros. I think together, both of them cost, I want the exact figure, but 1.4 for one, and the other one was. Yeah. So, 300,000 US. Yes. Anyway, you clarified already, so I just want to be clear.
Yeah. Sorry. I just wanted to ask a question in regards to a certain situation I've seen when it comes to youth within our country. So, when it comes to as well as politics per se, right now it's become a lot more aggressive in the latter months. And speaking to a lot of young people, they are most likely getting afraid of actually being involved with politics, as well as most likely one day being MP of their own district or MP of their own constituency because of the way politics has been visioned in today's standards. I just wanted to know, you've been in politics for such a long time. I'd like to know your views on this, especially for young people who want to get into the political arena.
You know, I'll tell you something, That's a good question you asked. And one day, I would like to have a discussion with young people on you see, here's what's happening now. What's happening now is a deliberate attempt to alter history. Deliberate. And I ask you, and my friend isn't there, Zain isn't there these days, I asked her to read a book called The Ministry of Truth. I asked her that. And I asked Ms. Motu to read it also. I can even make a present of it if she wants to. The Ministry of Truth is deliberate. What's happening there now is a game plan. It's a game plan. You understand? And it's so clear that, but you know, they think it can be successful. What's happening now is that you deliberately create a false narrative. So every morning, there are talking points. Talking points for this week. And if you look at the way that some of the talk shows are structured. Now, hold it. I'm not criticizing anybody's show. You hear when the guy is sitting, they say it's their opinion. Now, what I'm saying to you is what I see. There's a deliberate attempt by the opposition to fabricate history. They and the surrogates. To fabricate history. So you say something you know is not true, but you repeat it and you hope some people believe it. It's deliberate. So, young people, I understand their frustration. I understand it. I understand the frustration. And that is why we are creating these avenues to allow them to express themselves in a different way and to find their way to get the truth. The truth is available for everyone to see. When the government makes announcements, people feel them. We paid the teachers with temporary salaries. The temporary teachers got salaries. The money went in the bank account. The money went to the bank account. It went into the bank. They went to the bank and they drew the money. That's tangible. You can touch it. The opposition had some story about that. Because they want to create a false narrative. And that's deliberate. That's why I want you to read that book. The Ministry of Truth. It's a whole situation where you create false narratives. You say what's not true deliberately, and you repeat it, and you hope it sticks. That's the struggle. So I understand young people's frustration. I want to tell them to seek. The truth is available. The work of the youth economy is there for everyone to see. It's there. Not every young person has got a grant, but over 1,000 have got grants. That is there. Their businesses have expanded. They've got the equipment. They've got it. I'm not the one saying it. They've got it. Our work as far as law and order is there. You've seen the vests, the vest. You've seen the vehicles. You've seen the grocery headquarters. I understand that the opposition said that they had planned to build it. It's there. What I'm saying is not saying you can't check, It's so what they do, they get to personal attacks. What they do is they get personal. What they do is they say the nastiest things about people and their families. But me, this Prime Minister, is not going to respond. So if anybody is expecting me to go into the gutter, to clean it otherwise, no. I am not going to be responding. I am going to be talking about the future. I'm going to talk about the performance of this government. I am very proud about the performance of this government. Very proud. We have not been perfect. We have made mistakes. But anybody can tell you, they can touch it, and they can tell you the benefits of this that the country has got under this government. Yes.
Just one question on this side. Last week, the French ambassador, for the first time, publicly commended you, your administration, for clearing the bill owed to the French hospital. I don't think we've ever heard the French ambassador publicly acknowledge this. Clearing that expense, $3 million or so, what is it going to do for St. Lucians who depend on medical services in Matlick?
First of all, I want to tell you that the French ambassador is entering stop duty in St. Lucia. I want to thank him for the work that he and the French government have been doing for the country. And I also want to tell you that he has made an official request to the French government for another canine. An official request has gone to the French government for another canine. That's the first one. And contrary to what is being said, there's a canine right now in St. Lucia that is working. Contrary, that's a fact. So I just want to clear these things. We have paid the bill over $3 million, and that bill was there from the very early. Very pleased that has happened. What's happening now is our nationals can get treatment in France easier, in that there's no backlog. Something that we had to do, and for the health, and that's again another expenditure we've had under the health services in the country. We found that bill, and we paid it. That is a fact. Yeah.
Last one for me. The opposition last week, as part of their ongoing campaign, indicated to the public that if re-elected, they will complete St. Jude. So I just wanted to see if you had a reaction to the opposition leader promising to finish St. Jude if he's re-elected.
The opposition leader has made a lot of statements about St. Jude. He said that a building that did not have one piece of equipment, that was leaking, that there was no mechanical engineering work, he said it will finish in 6 months. That's what he said. It'll finish in 6 months. I want to tell you, if the opposition leader has seen now the value in finishing the building that this government was mercilessly attacked for. If now he's at wisdom, I say to him, welcome to the club, but unfortunately, we'll finish it before that.
Yeah, just a final question. Yeah, final question from me. I know you said that you were busy, and I know this question is maybe more so suited for the Minister of Education. But last week we saw the official results of the CXC results, and given the government's policy position as it pertains to paying some of these subjects, two things. We outdid the region average, and it was our best performance in the past 5 years. So just as Prime Minister, your thoughts on that, given your policy position as it pertains to the paying of CXC subjects and these sort of things?
Thank you. The Minister of Education will be will be here shortly to deal with it. I want to tell you that it's true. That was our best performance. And then if you notice, English and maths performance, right? English was the highest. We paid English CXC. Again, these are policies you can touch. You can touch it. We paid it. But maths, there's still some problems in maths. And what we've done this term, the Minister of Education will tell you, we've recruited special mathematics teachers to help students in maths. And incidentally, on Saturday, I didn't see any of you there, you're invited, we had our maths quiz. It's the 17th time Cassius East has held a maths quiz. 17 times we've held that. And I was very pleased to honor the students who did the best in the schools in my constituency, Bocage, Combined, Bishops Garche, and Tiroche. The students who came first, they were honored, and there was also the winner of the maths quiz. And incidentally, the students that came first in my constituency, 91, 90, and 89 from my constituency. These are ones from the top students in my constituency. So I'm very happy about it. I'm very pleased. So when I hear the statements about inner cities and things, I don't get involved in that. But the Minister of Education, but we did. I want to compliment the teachers, and this is why the government was very pleased to pay them August salaries, because truth is, I understand what teachers go through. My mother was one. I understand what they go through. I want to thank them for the work they've done with the teachers. There's room for improvement, and we're working on the maths to see if we can improve the maths.
Finally, from me, Mr. Prime Minister, the Kings are playing in St. Lucia this week into next Sunday. Do you have any words of encouragement for them, and are you encouraging St. Lucians to go watch the matches?
Well, yesterday the match was rained out. That's unfortunate. There's some young St. Lucians doing pretty well. Gaston, the young St. Lucian, and when Pollard congratulates you for bowling the ball, you understand, you did well. Pollard takes no prisoners. And then there's also Akim Ogis, who also came out and showed some mettle even in the dying stages. So we have 3 more matches: Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and Saturday. Sunday, 2 matches. I hope we can do well in these matches. I want St. Lucians to be in the numbers on Saturday, and the crowd was expected to be very large yesterday. I wish Darren and St. Lucia Kings all the best. That's it.
Just my last question, though, in regards to, as well, if you don't mind, just going to the political front. I'm seeing that this year we're having also some new parties actually being in the spotlight. I just want to know, your opinion. How come do you believe that St. Lucia needs more presence in terms of parties, especially now that new ones are coming in?
We live in a democracy. I encourage all democratic institutions, and anyone who wants to form a political party, welcome to the club. It's a democracy, and everyone has a right. I will never impinge on anyone's right of association. Never. Not my style. Right of association. But I just want to tell them that let us join in the debate of ideas. Let's join the debate of policy. Let's join that debate. I'm very, 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 very anxious to get involved in the debate on performance. On performance. Let's talk about performance. Let's talk about the performance of my government. Our performance in every sector of the economy. That's what I want to discuss. And I'm willing to discuss it anytime. Our performance. So, I thank you very much, and do have a good week. Everybody.
My name is Sean Edward, SHAWNEDWARD. I am the Minister for Education, Sustainable Development, Innovation, Science, Technology and Vocational Training, and the duly elected parliamentary representative for the constituency of Dennery North. Any questions for me, or?
Okay. Well, you were away last week, but the results for...
I was on vacation.
Yeah, you were on vacation last week. The results for CXC came out. A few promising takeaways from that. Our best in 5 years, performing better than the regional average. Just as Minister, when you heard those gains, what's your thoughts and feelings towards that?
Well, like most of the students, the principals and the teachers, parents as well, I was anticipating good results this year. I know the schools had worked very, very diligently to prepare the students. And after having made my rounds at the various schools, I was pretty much satisfied with what I saw happening. And it did not come as a surprise that our students had done better this year than they would have done in previous years. But there is just one area of concern that we continue to work at, and that is mathematics. Whereas St. Lucia continues to score above the regional mean in mathematics, we're not pitching at a level that would bring satisfaction to myself as minister and the senior management personnel in the Ministry of Education. But generally speaking, I'm extremely pleased with the results this year, and some of our students performed outstandingly. Also very commendable this year, notwithstanding that in the top 20, top 100, that is dominated by female students. I think there were quite a few boys this year who came to the fore and registered very, very good results. And this is in keeping with a deliberate effort at the level of the Ministry of Education, where we are looking to program to meet the boys on their own terms at their level to ensure that we can get maximum out of them as it relates to instruction in the classroom and their overall participation in the education process.
Just on the front of maths, I guess ironically, maths is one of our worst subjects, but then in additional mathematics, we place first in the region. And now I know not a lot of students do additional mathematics,
That's
but
correct.
are there any things that the ministry might implement to kind of close that gap or see what can be done with regards to
Well,
mathematics?
I'm on the record as stating that we have some challenges in mathematics, and that's been reflected in the results that we've gotten, not only at CSEC level, but at the level of the CPEA. And in a deliberate response to that particular problem, the Prime Minister did include it as a line item in the budget where the Ministry of Education receives an additional $250,000 to help with mathematics instruction. So in the coming days, we will convene a meeting to complement what we've been doing by the Curriculum and Materials Development Unit, the CAMDU, through our mathematics specialist. We will be bringing together in one space retired educators, persons who would have distinguished themselves as well-respected mathematics teachers, but who have since retired. We want to bring them in to work alongside the mathematics practitioners we have in schools at the moment, and to take a critical look with external help from the Canadian government, the CXC, and the OECS to see how best we can get to the bottom of this problem. Because I believe that what we see manifesting itself as poor performances in mathematics at the Form 5 CSEC level is something that would have started perhaps at the early childhood level. So this calls for an in-depth investigation where we'll critically examine all the possible factors at early childhood, at the infant level, the primary level, hoping that by the time a student transitions from primary to secondary, we would probably have a much better appreciation of where they are at and what are the factors that are impeding quality performances as far as mathematics is concerned.
Good afternoon, Minister.
Good afternoon.
On the music front, a petition was launched a few months ago calling for a financial audit and investigations into the St. Lucia School of Music. Music educators have stated that at the non-profit prices are so high that they cannot even refer parents to the school for their students to learn musical instruments. I know that the School of Music receives a subvention from the government, I believe through the Ministry of Education. Has you heard of these complaints, and has the ministry looked into it?
I have heard of the complaints as they relate to the St. Lucia School of Music. But St. Lucia School of Music is not a traditional school in terms of how it is managed. The daily operations of the St. Lucia School of Music is not in the purview or remit of the Ministry of Education. And we've started conversation with the administrators of that school with a view to ensuring that there is greater transparency. But in terms of the daily operations and how the school is managed, we have not taken and we do not want to take responsibility for that. Naturally, we would have a stake because, as you quite rightly said, we provide support. And once taxpayers' dollars go into an institution, I think it is incumbent on the government to ensure that the money is used in a way where it benefits the citizenry and that people are generally satisfied with the services that are being provided. But in terms of the Ministry of Education taking a hard-line position with respect to the School of Music, we have not done so. It is not our intention to do so, but instead we will continue to sit down and have dialogue to ensure that the services they provided many years ago, and I know there are so many St. Lucians who can speak very positively about the experiences they would have had as students at the School of Music, this is what we want to see returning to the fore, and we will spend no effort. And if it means that we have to provide additional resources, not necessarily financial resources, we will do what we have to bolster that school and at least to get it back to its glory days where persons traveled the length and breadth of this country just to enroll and to get the quality of instruction that made it one of the best music schools, not only in St. Lucia, but in the Eastern Caribbean.
Good afternoon, Mr.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Edward. Still on schools, how do you, I think it's about a year or 2 years now since the transition of 4 secondary schools into TVET institutions. How would you assess the development of education and skills and training at these institutions now? And are you confident that they are models for training students in St. Lucia for the years to come?
Absolutely. I'm extremely pleased with the progress that we've made. As you quite rightly said, transitioning or transforming 4 of our traditional secondary schools into TVET institutes, so to speak. Formerly the Angers Secondary School, the PI Secondary, the Grand Riviere Secondary, and the Stanley John Odlum Secondary all have been transitioned to TVET-specific institutes, where students are practically being enrolled in programs that would prepare them for the workforce and the job market. It is still work in progress. We're not where we want to be, but in terms of the strides that have been made ever since we started, I'm extremely pleased, and I must commend not just the senior management personnel in the Ministry of Education, but more specifically the TVET Council and the TVET unit spearheaded by Dr. Natram in the Ministry of Education. The principals are very excited about what they've been doing. I have had a reason to visit some of the schools during normal operating hours, and I must tell you, it warms my heart, and I'm extremely pleased to see how the students are able to use the equipment at their disposal to sharpen their skills, thereby preparing them for the job market. A student who completes the program in any of our TVET schools upon graduation or completion of a program receives a CVQ, Caribbean Vocational Qualification Certificate, and with such a certificate, he or she can enter the job market in any CARICOM country, not needing a work permit. So we are preparing students for industry, and we are hoping that by the time they finish, they would be ready for immediate immersion into the world of work. I would have indicated that strides are being made, but we're not where we want to be, but I'm extremely pleased with the progress that we are making. We are also seeing expressions of interest in the TVET schools and their programming. On a weekly basis, we receive requests from parents and students wanting to be transferred to some of the TVET schools. So this year, at the level of the CPEA, when the assignments were made, a number of parents came to the ministry saying that instead of what we call a traditional secondary school, they wanted their students to be enrolled at TVET. There are 2 entry points with the TVET schools. A child or a student enters at Form 1 level, or a child can be accepted at the Form 3 level. But we have known instances where parents have requested transfers at the level of the Form 2 and even Form 4. And the ministry has tried as much as possible to work with those parents to ensure that the children get the experience that they are seeking with a view to bettering themselves, sharpening their skills, thereby giving themselves a better opportunity at the job market. So I'm very excited about that. I'm very excited about the ensuing academic year. As you know, schools in St. Lucia reopened their doors on the 1st of September to receive students, but this week teachers are required to report to begin preparing to receive the students. And for us at the Ministry of Education, we're looking forward to a very promising, a very bright academic year. As I speak, over 120 school buildings are being worked on, thereby ensuring that we create this enabling environment where teacher and student can interface in an environment conducive for learning and ensure that the comfort level is in keeping with what we want to espouse as a government. So school buildings are being worked on. For the first time in the history of this country, well, in a very, very long time, temporary teachers have been paid their salaries in the month of August. That never used to happen before, and we heard the cries of temporary teachers who would have had commitments with the banks, who would have had commitments in terms of just maintaining and providing for their families, and they had to suffer the inconvenience of not having a salary in the month of August because of their employment status with government being not permanent, but and being temporary. But this year, we made good on our promise. The Prime Minister did say in the budget that he was going to ensure that sufficient resources would have been mobilized to pay temporary teachers, and the temporary teachers I have been able to interface with in recent days have all expressed their satisfaction and gratitude to the government for having received their salaries for the month of August. I must also tell you that we have a chronic shortage in relation to nurses in the healthcare system, at our hospitals, primary healthcare facilities, etc. And in a deliberate response to that particular problem, we are subsidizing tuition for nursing students at the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, so that every single nursing student enrolled at the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College is getting a form of assistance from the government with meeting tuition expenses. The bachelor's program at Sir Arthur spans 4 years. The first year students, or the new cohort, each student receives from the government of St. Lucia $2,500 towards tuition. The second year students receive the same amount, $2,500 towards tuition. The third year students, in the penultimate year, they receive $5,000 each from the government of St. Lucia. And the final year or fourth year students, they each receive $10,000, which is the full cost of tuition in the final year, complements the government of St. Lucia. So annually, a student is required to mobilize $10,000 for tuition. So we subsidize in the first year in part, we subsidize in the second year in part, the third year we pay half, and for the final year students who are preparing to exit the program, exit the college, to be immersed into the healthcare system at the hospitals, the health centers, primary and secondary healthcare facilities, we are saying that we understand the pressures that can come with transitioning as they finish, and we are paying the full cost of tuition for every student at the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College enrolled in the nursing program. This is not all we're doing. We're also helping with early childhood education. And for 2 years now, we are saying that we recognize that the majority of the early childhood educational load, so to speak, is being carried by private early childhood practitioners. We have in St. Lucia at the moment 106 private preschool / early childhood centers. And the government, last year, we would have given $2,500 to each to help meet the cost of operations and to basically enhance the aesthetics of the environment within which the children are being kept. The Prime Minister has increased it to $3,000, where every early childhood center, private that is, will receive from the government of St. Lucia $3,000 this year. That is not all we're doing in relation to early childhood education. Early childhood educators will tell you that they are at their wits' end sometimes to get parents to pay the fees, because it is not free. It's a private service that is being rendered. And in recognition of this, last year the Prime Minister made $50 available on behalf of every child in the system. That has been increased. It has been doubled, where this year $100 will be paid to each of the private early childhood centers on behalf of the children enrolled at those centers, thereby taking the pressure off the parents. So there's a lot happening. We are also paying 4 CXC subjects. 4. We would have started when we assumed government in 2021. The Prime Minister came out and he said that we were going to pay CXC, CSEC fees for mathematics and English for every Form 5 child in the public school system. He has gone further this year and has committed to paying for 4 subjects: mathematics, English language, a foreign language, and a science. I can tell you that this news is being well received by the parents, by the schools themselves, because it can be very disconcerting for the educator, where you would have had a student entrusted in your care for 5 years, and when the moment comes for registration for CSEC, some parents or some students disappear because of their parents' inability to mobilize the fees to be able to pay on their behalf. We are saying that we believe this is wrong, and that is why at the moment we are in a position where we can pay for 4 subjects for every child. There's a lot happening in education that I can speak to. We continue with the 1 laptop per child program, and as we speak, more than 2,000 brand new Chromebooks have been procured on behalf of the Form 1 students of this country by the Philip J. Pierre administration, so that every child, upon entering Form 1, you are being handed a Chromebook, not because it is fashionable or it is an in thing, but because we understand as an administration how much of an indispensable learning aid a laptop or a device is in the modern scheme of education. We could have easily passed on that cost to the parents, but we say no, because we understand that it can be a bit taxing on parents, and that is why we've been able to allocate millions of dollars just to ensure that every child in the secondary school system has a laptop computer. So, as I said, I'm very excited about the new academic year. I look forward to receiving the 26,000 students in our system at all levels, hoping that the teachers will meet them with a degree of enthusiasm and motivation that will augur well for a very successful and productive academic year 2025-2026.
Sir, can you update us on any major improvements on the rehabilitation on the schools throughout the island, specifically the Antripo Secondary School?
Yes. As I would have indicated, we're working on in excess of 100 schools through what we call the Summer Works Program. The Summer Works Program, as the name implies, basically speaks to the work that we do to refurbish and rehabilitate school plant during the months of July and August ahead of a new academic year. The report I've received from the Plant and Equipment Unit in the Ministry of Education is that work is progressing very, very smoothly, and that all the various small projects are expected to be culminated in time for there to be no disruption or a delayed opening of school. With respect to the Antripo Secondary School, as you know, we would have secured a loan of almost $20 million through the Afri-Exim Bank, and we would have worked on 22 schools. But the nature of the project or the magnitude of projects at school varied based on the needs assessment that was done by the Plant and Equipment Unit of the Ministry of Education. So that at the Antripo Secondary School, we're spending in excess of $8 million for a 3-story building that has replaced or that is replacing a dilapidated structure that existed there for over 50 years. We're also constructing a new wing at the Piero Combined School. We're doing the same at the Plainview Combined in Viewfort South, and the other big one being financed to the tune of $1.5 million is at the School of Sustainable Agriculture and Culinary Arts, formerly the Grand Riviere Secondary School, where a brand new block is being constructed with modern classroom facilities and amenities that reflect the climate resilient infrastructure that we've been speaking about, and ensuring that the classrooms provide much greater comfort levels than what we would have been accustomed to in our various school buildings.
Good afternoon again, Minister. With the U.S.'s new stance and policy on visa and immigration, have any of our students looking to study in the United States been affected?
Not to my knowledge. I know there have been reports from neighboring countries where some students have had some difficulties, but I cannot speak with any degree of certainty about any student in St. Lucia having been affected as a result of the United States of America's position.
Good afternoon, Mr. Minister. So this Wednesday, I believe that majority of the students who received the scholarship to study in Taiwan would be leaving. If I can just get a statement on this year's production with the Taiwanese scholarship, as well as the Ministry of Education's continued collaboration with the Taiwanese government in educational development.
Yes, thank you very much. Let me say that I cannot adequately express our collective gratitude to the government and people of Taiwan for making scholarships available to young St. Lucians who want to pursue higher education. This year, the number has been increased. Just a few days ago, 44 young St. Lucians were awarded instruments to take up their rightful places in university in Taiwan. So 44 students left St. Lucia to study in Taiwan. And I'm particularly pleased this year seeing the number of young men, boys, who profited the opportunity and are on their way to Taiwan to study engineering and some of the more demanding stuff that we need to move our country forward. In addition to the 44 Taiwanese scholarships that were given recently, 11 students left St. Lucia just a few days ago to take up studies in Cuba. The majority of them will be reading for medical degrees, hoping to come back to bolster our healthcare system. Today, at today's cabinet sitting, 75 first-generation scholarships will be approved for young St. Lucians to commence degree programs at Monroe University. And all of this is part and parcel of a philosophy we have, a philosophy that has been espoused by Prime Minister Pierre, that we can have one university graduate in every household in St. Lucia. I have said before, and I will repeat, we will go to every nook and cranny of this globe in pursuit of scholarship opportunities for young St. Lucians, particularly those whose socio-economic circumstances do not enable them to go to a bank to secure a loan to pursue their dreams. I believe, as a cabinet we believe, and Prime Minister Pierre believes, that it is morally wrong and unacceptable for a young St. Lucian to be denied an opportunity because of his or her socio-economic circumstances. Poverty or indigence should not be an impediment to one's ability to realize their dreams in relation to higher education. So we will make the scholarships available. We will continue to support our students as best we can. And to complement the scholarships I just mentioned, Cabinet will be making available 120 bursary packages, making available 120 bursary packages to students who have been accepted to study at the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. So there's a lot that we're doing for young people. There's a lot that we're doing for our students. We continue to place a premium on education as an administration, realizing that any real chance of survival for St. Lucia in a fiercely competitive global environment, that will be determined largely by the quality of the human resource base. And that is why we will continue to invest in our children, we'll continue to invest in our young people, and we'll continue to give the best possible educational experiences to them within the confines of the resources available to the Ministry of Education and, by extension, this government.
I just have one clarifying question about the nursing subsidies.
Yeah.
Does that come into effect? Is it this academic year or it has already been?
No, it comes into effect this academic year. So, as we speak, there is an orientation exercise happening at the South Louis Community College. This morning, myself and Minister Moses Jean-Baptiste addressed the cohort of students in the Health Sciences Division at the South Louis Community College. So you have a group of students who will be doing midwifery. You have another group doing public health, and then you have the students doing the Bachelor's of Nursing program. So all of those students this morning assembled in one room at the South Louis Community College for orientation. But citing that there's a chronic shortage of nurses in St. Lucia and globally, the government's response is that we have to lessen the burden on the students and parents to ensure that those who enroll will complete, thereby complementing the number of nurses we have in the system. So the first year students, those I would have addressed this morning at the college, they are receiving from the government $2,500 towards tuition. The second year students are receiving the same amount, $2,500. Those in the third year, the penultimate year, they are receiving $5,000 from the government towards tuition. And the final year students who would have gone through the rigors of year 1, year 2, year 3, and who are preparing to transition from college into the health sector, just to ensure that they can do so with little stress. The government has come forward and said that, look, we are paying the full tuition for you in the final year. Because when we do the calculations, it is costing a student 10,000 EC dollars per year at the South Louis Community College. So if you plan to spend 4 years, you need to secure at least $40,000. Bye-bye. Have a good day. Thank you. Inspiration.
Thank you very much. We've come to the end